Hey everyone, welcome to today's class. In today's class, we are going to look into HTML styles, CSS. Now you must have been hearing about CSS and all of that. So today we are going to dive in deeper into HTML styles, right? In our last class we talked about lists, we talked of ordered list, unordered list, descriptive list, and even nesting or nested list, nested ordered list, nested unordered list, and nested descriptive list. And we also looked into ordered list attributes like type, start, and the rest of them. So if you haven't seen our last class, if you haven't seen our last video, please go back and watch it. It's very important. And if you are coming across our page for the first time, you're welcome to Codewithkhrist. This page or channel is dedicated in teaching web development from scratch for free. So whether you're a total beginner or someone looking to sharpen your skills in coding, web development to be precise, this channel is the right channel for you. So I urge you to subscribe to this channel, turn on your notification bell so that you'll be the first to be notified whenever new video drops. And also don't forget to follow us across other platforms like Facebook and TikTok at the same handle, Codewithkhrist. All right, so now generally I'm going to give you an overview of what CSS means. Right now, what is the full meaning of CSS, or what does CSS stands for? Now, CSS means cascading style sheets. Cascading style sheet. Now, I'm going to break it down. What is cascading, what is style, and then what is sheets, right? So now for cascading, with cascading, multiple styles or multiple style rules can apply to same elements. The browser follows the cascade, the property, which is the property order, origin, specificity, order, to decide which styles win. Then for style, CSS declares presentation like colors, layouts, spacing, typograph, animation, and the rest of them. And then sheets, CSS rules are commonly stored in files, which is known as sheets, but can also be what's written in line or in page, right? So now, what is the purpose of CSS? HTML defines the structure and semantics of a document, which is the heading, the paragraph, the list, the form. Then CSS defines how the structure should look like, or how and where it appears. It describes how the structure should look like. In fact, CSS beautifies our document. It beautifies the HTML structure after HTML has been used to define the structure, the semantics, the header, the paragraph, and the rest of them. CSS gives it unique style, gives it styling, beautification, right? If you go to a website, you see the background color, you see button color, and all of that. Sometimes, in fact, CSS enhances the user experience and user interface, because most of the times users are judged by by the appearance of a website. Wow, the styling is so beautiful. Wow, it's when a website has a very good styling, it invites people, and it also helps user to stay in that particular website, because users are always, they judge the website by the look, right? So CSS is very important. So of course, for the presentation, which is the color, the font, the sizes, the background colors, and the rest of them. Then for layout, CSS is also used for layout, which is for positioning, grid, flow, flex, and columns, right? Then visual behavior like transition, animation. If you hover on a button, of course it goes up or it comes down, or it increases in size or it decreases. Those things are animation, right? And transition. Then transform. Then also responsiveness. CSS is used for making our document responsive in order to adapt to what screen sizes and input method. The way a website can appear in your desktop computer is not the same way it should appear in your mobile phone or tablet. Why? Because the sizes of our desktop computer, the screen size of our desktop computer, and that of mobile phone and that of tablet are not the same, right? So CSS helps us to make our website responsive, right? Responsive and adaptive to all screen size type, you know, in smaller screen, in larger screen, and in medium screen, right? Then it's also for accessibility enhancement, which focus on the outlines, reduce motion media query, and readable constructs. So advantages of CSS. Why CSS? Now it's for separation of consigns. It keeps content HTML separate from presentation. CSS easier to maintain. It is reusability, consistency, performance, flexibility and power, accessibility and progress enhancement, device responsiveness, and then animation and interaction, right? So now, and we have three types of CSS, or three ways we can apply CSS in our HTML files. The first one is inline CSS. Now this type of CSS is where CSS is functioning as an attribute known as style attribute. Now we did attribute in our last class or in previous classes, so by now you must have known what attribute means. Attribute adds more meaning and definition to a particular element. So now for inline CSS is functioning as an attribute where we can actually give our styles inside style attributes, right? And then we also have internal attributes or internal CSS. Now internal CSS is a type of CSS that is used where CSS is functioning as an element but then used inside the head section of our page, right? CSS here is functioning as as an element, style element. CSS inside style block within an HTML document, right? So now, and the last one is external CSS. This type of CSS is where CSS is functioning externally. That means we create a CSS file, separate CSS file, and then we link it to our HTML document using link, and then we give a class name or ID name, which is a global attribute, and then when we go back to our CSS file, we style, and then we style our document, right? So now for this class, today's class is majorly focusing on inline CSS. We are going to take them one after the other. The next class is going to focus on internal CSS, and the upper class we will focus on external CSS, right? So now the first thing we're going to do is to create our file, right? So now to create our file, you right click and then new. So I can call it style.html. remember, it must end with extension HTML for HTML file. All right, so now we bring out our boilerplate, and then so we are going to be writing our code. So I can have h1, and then I say inline style, right? So here inline styling, CSS function as an attribute known as style. So here this is an attribute, and this attribute is used to add CSS styles, like width, border, display height, margin, padding, position, background color, text color, font size, font family, font width, opacity, overflow, text align, and all of that, line height, and all of that. So every style, all the three types of CSS, you can actually give it the same style. It's just the same thing, but each of them has their own kind of advantage and easier to adapt. Some people prefer to use inline CSS, some people prefer to use internal CSS, and some people prefer to use external CSS. So it's all the same thing, right? So now first of all, let me run this in my browser. Okay, so if I go live, all right, okay, so I have this inline CSS. So I'm going to be styling this using inline CSS. So first of all, I can give it a text color. I can change the text color. Of course, by default, our text color is having black by default, right? So now I can change the text color. So color, all right, so color blue, a blue. So if you go to my browser, all right, still loading. All right, you can see my text now is having a blue color. So now I can give it a background color. Background color can be let me see, yellow. All right, so background color yellow. So go back to my browser, you can see it's going to have a background color of yellow, right? You can see now this explains what I said initially in our previous classes, that for block level elements, they always start on a new line, right? And and they occupy the full width of our browser. You can see because of this background color, you can see that this text is actually occupying the full width of our browser. You can see it's occupied by this background color. You know that this text is having a background color and it's occupying the full width of our browser, and it has a margin top, margin right, left, and also bottom, right? So that is it, and that is the uniqueness of what block level elements. So now I can align the text at the center using text align. So text align, I can say center. All right, align center. So our text is aligned at the center. I can increase the size of the text. So using font size, okay. So font size, I can say maybe larger and all of that, smaller, small, and all of that. So I can say larger. All right, so you see larger decreased it actually. So now I can actually use a parameter like 10%, 20%, 30%, and all of that. And CSS has units for measuring size or quantity, right? We have percent, we have ps, we have arm, we have all these units, right? So when we enter external CSS, I'm going to explain them more, right? So okay, let me use 100%, which may be quite big. Okay, so this is 100%, it's not quite big. Okay, it's not quite big. Let me increase this to, I want you to see the effect. So let me increase it to 500%. You can see 500% is quite too big, so I can reduce it to 300. Okay, so you can see this is what 300% of font size, right? I can also add font family, or I can change the font family. Font family is the style, the text style, right? We have different font family which you can choose. Let me choose this Franklin. All right, so you can see the text style has changed, right? So now what again, I also have font weight, font weight, so it's of 900, All right, so and then I can give it, text transform. Text transform is used to transform the text either from, to uppercase, lowercase, and all of that. Okay, so let me give it a text transform. Okay, so um, text transform, so I can say uppercase. All right, uppercase. So in my browser, it's still loading. You can see, so now it has uppercase, is now in capital letter. All right, so now I can have another, let me have h3, welcome to Codewithkhrist. All right, so now so I use a style attribute, then I can give the a background. Now you can use background or background color, they are all the same. Give it. Okay, so go back to my browser. All right, still loading. All right, so welcome to Chris. Okay, so the all right, okay, I made a mistake. There's a typo, background. All right, so let me reload. All right, so you can see it has a background of what, red. So I can change the color, the text color, using color. So color white. So go back to my browser, still loading. Okay, so now I can, give it a margin now, or padding. So padding is the space around our elements, the space around our elements. If you look at this, inline style, you find out that from here, you find out that this background of yellow, right, there is a little bit of space from the text right up to the top, right? So here, this is a padding top, this is a padding bottom, and here is a padding left, and here is a padding right. So I can give it, and I can increase the padding. So padding, if I'm using padding, that means I'm trying to generate any style I give it here, any particular, maybe percent or ps I give it here will affect all around, right? So let me say I give it a padding of 50 px. That means it will work for both top, it will work for both the top, the bottom, the left and right? So that is what this does. But if you now want to tallow it down, maybe you want to give only the top, you give the padding top 10 ps, padding bottom 10 ps, padding right whatsoever, right? So now Next, I can you know, I can actually give it a decoration text decoration for maybe underline. I can underline it and all of that. So text decoration, I have dashed, I have dotted, double, line through. So for line through, it crosses it, you know it crossed it. Then for underline, it gives it an underline. So let me change this to underline. Okay, so we're going to have, right, you can see underline. Then I can what again? Okay, I can align the text right. So text align, text align, let me say right. So right, or what, end, right? So right or end, right? So then, okay, let me bring out another element like p tag, and then I'm going to use lorem to generate a text. Now remember, lorem is used to generate a text. So when using lorem, you can say lorem and then specify the how many text you want it to generate, right? So let's say 20. So you generate a 20 text length, letters, right? So okay, so we have this, right? So now inside the, now always remember that attributes are usually declared inside the starter tag. Under this p tag, it is in the starter tag, then give space and then star, right? So then I can give it, let me give it a background. Let me give it a color of green, green. All right. Okay, let me also add another lorem. I want the text to be quite long. So lorem, um, that's total of 40. All right. So I have this. All right. So now can go ahead and give it. Let me give it a padding. Okay. Let me give it a padding of 10 px. So my browser, okay, is having a 10 px. Now this space between elements, outside an element, is known as margin, right? I can actually increase the margin or reduce the margin, right? So if I come here and give it a margin, let me give it a margin top, margin top. So if I say margin top 20 px, that means this Christ, yeah, Codewithkhrist. Okay, so let me refresh. All right, so now the margin I gave it is already the exact margin is occupying. So if I increase this to 60 px, all right, so that okay, you can see now the space has, the margin has increased, right? The space apart, element to an element, is known as margin, while the space around an element, like the space inside an element, is known as padding, right? So I can actually reduce this also. I can actually draw it closer to this. Okay, let me see, minus 60 px. Okay, you can see minus 60 px, it came and joined the other h3 elements. Okay, let me say minus 40, minus 40. Okay, so this is minus 40, right? So now this text inside, I can give it you know, I can give it line height. Line height is also a space between each of the lines, the space between each of the lines in a text, right? So line height, let me give it 10 px. Okay, so now you see that 10 px drew them closer, so I can increase it. Let me increase this to 30. Okay, so you can see the line height has actually increased. So now I can give it a text color. The color color let me give it white. All right, so you can see. So that is it for internal CSS. All right, so that is it for inline CSS. Thanks for watching. If you have not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Thank you for watching. Bye.